Some things, once seen, can never be unseen. The art of tracking has coursed through my veins since childhood, an ancestral legacy bestowed by my grandfather. When September's crimson leaves began to fall, I knew it was time for my 12-year-old son, Ethan, to embrace this heritage. His initiation into our family tradition couldn't be postponed any longer. We ventured into Blackwood Forest at dawn, the morning mist still clinging to ancient pines. I carried 2 Winchester Model 70 rifles, keeping both secured until we reached a secluded clearing I'd discovered years ago. The commercial hunting platforms at Ridgeline Reserve never appealed to me. Too sanitized, too removed from nature's raw essence. I wanted Ethan's first hunt to be authentic, to feel the forest floor beneath his boots and hear the whispers of the wilderness. "How much longer, Dad?" Ethan sighed, kicking at fallen leaves. The stillness was testing his adolescent patience. His eyes, once bright with anticipation, now reflected growing disinterest. "Nature rewards those who wait," I replied, though I recognized the telltale signs of boredom creeping across his features. This wasn't how I wanted him to remember this milestone. "Let's explore further east," I suggested. That's when the silence shattered footsteps, deliberate and measured, approaching from our flank. My arms shot out instinctively, creating a barrier between Ethan and the unknown. I motioned for him to raise his rifle, which he did with renewed excitement until I spotted it. A face, partially obscured behind a massive oak, observing us. "Human." I immediately pushed Ethan's barrel downward. The figure of a man standing approximately 30 yards away lingered momentarily before melting back into the shadows. Something about him triggered primal alarms within me. He bore no hunter's orange, carried no visible weapon, but it was his face that disturbed me most, distorted somehow. Features arranged in an unnatural configuration that defied description. We retreated in the opposite direction, my hand firmly gripping Ethan's shoulder. Later, we paused in a small glade to refuel with trail mix and water. The crunch of underbrush interrupted our brief respite. Ethan froze mid-bite. The same stranger, the same unsettling gaze from behind the same calculated distance. My patience evaporated. "Stay exactly where you are," I instructed Ethan, voice low but firm. I began advancing toward the intruder, perhaps 15 meters away, but halfway there, realization struck like lightning. What madness had possessed me to leave my son alone? I pivoted and rushed back to Ethan. "We're leaving this area, now." As we hastened toward the trailhead, another sound branch's snapping pursued us. Protective rage surged through me. I spun around and charged toward the noise. The figure retreated behind a massive hemlock. I approached cautiously, rifle ready, when a sickening thud broke the tension. I edged toward the tree, heart hammering against my ribs. And there it lay, a severed head, face down in the decomposing leaves. No body, no blood trail, just a head, unnaturally pale against the forest floor. I didn't investigate further, didn't call out. I grabbed Ethan and we fled, reaching the truck in record time. Sleep eluded me that night, my mind replaying the grotesque discovery on endless loop. The following afternoon, my wife Caroline mentioned a news report about 3 hikers who'd vanished in Blackwood Forest over the past month. I contacted Sheriff Donovan immediately. I still honor our family's hunting tradition, but these days, we stay within sight of established trails. And I maintain constant vigilance because I know what lurks in Blackwood's deepest shadows. Some sounds don't belong in the forest. Some eyes shouldn't be watching. And some trips should never be taken. The weight of the rifle felt foreign in my hands as I trudged through the dense undergrowth of Blackwater National Forest. At 25, I was embarrassingly late to this particular rite of passage, but my reluctance ran deeper than inexperience. I'd always found something unsettling about ending a life that never saw you coming. "Keep up, Mitch," Jackson called back, his voice carrying through the Montana wilderness with dangerous abandon. Our group of 5, me, Jackson, Eli, Ryan, and Ryan's girlfriend Sophia had driven 6 hours from the city for this weekend expedition. 2 weathered tents, our firearms, 3 days of provisions, and far more anxiety than I cared to admit completed our inventory. "You sure this is legal hunting ground?" I asked, adjusting the pack digging into my shoulders. Jackson rolled his eyes. "For the 100th time, yes. My uncle comes here every season." The truth was, I'd only agreed to this trip after months of Jackson's relentless badgering. "Just once," he'd said. "If you hate it, I'll never ask again." Now, surrounded by towering pines and the unsettling silence of nature, I was already regretting my decision. By dusk, we'd established our campsite in a small clearing. While Jackson lectured us on proper tracking techniques, I attempted to lighten the increasingly tense atmosphere. "Shouldn't we be whispering if we don't want to alert every creature within 5 miles?" I quipped. The joke landed with a thud. No one even cracked a smile. As twilight deepened into night, we encountered then 3 figures emerging from between the trees about 50 yards from camp. They stood unnaturally still, watching us with vacant expressions. Their clothes hung in tatters around massive frames, and their matted hair and beards suggested they hadn't seen civilization in years. When we passed them on our way back to camp, they acknowledged us with slight nods that felt less like greeting and more like recognition. "Locals," Eli muttered after we'd put some distance between us. "Mountain folk. Best to leave them be." We didn't see the Maganat, at least not immediately. Jackson managed to take down a young buck, and despite my moral objections, I couldn't deny the primal satisfaction of the venison steaks we grilled over the fire. Sleep eluded me that night. The forest's symphony of creaks and rustles kept my nerves on edge. Around 2 a.m., just as I'd resolved to step outside for some air, I heard deliberate footsteps circling our tent. My blood turned to ice. The tent's zipper began to move, teeth separating with excruciating slowness. I rolled to my side, feigning sleep, heart hammering against my ribs. After an eternal moment, the zipper reversed course, closing once more. The footsteps retreated, then paused, heading toward Ryan and Sophia's tent. My first thought was innocent enough. Ryan had arranged some private time with Sophia and was checking if we were asleep. I decided to catch them in the act, a childish prank to break the weekend's tension. I slipped from her tent and crept toward theirs. The entrance flap already hung open. Inside, illuminated by moonlight filtering through the nylon, were 2 figures hunched over Sophia's motionless form. Neither was Ryan. The scream tore from my throat before I could stop it. Jackson and Eli erupted from our tent, rifles raised. The intruders bolted into the darkness. Then came the true horror. From every direction, shapes emerged from the shadows, figures materializing from behind trees, rocks, and bushes. They'd surrounded us completely, watching silently for hours, waiting for this moment. There must have been 30 of them. Ryan and Sophia had been drugged with something. We spent 30 harrowing minutes waiting for them to regain consciousness enough to move, all while keeping our weapons trained on the tree line. The 4-mile sprint through pitch-black forest to reach our vehicle remains the most terrifying experience of my life. Every snapping twig, every rustle of leaves convinced me they were right behind us. We never reported the incident. What would we say? We never learned who they were, an isolated clan cut off from society? Some twisted cult? Something worse? Some questions are better left unanswered. Some places should remain unexplored. And sometimes, the most dangerous predators in the forest walk on two legs. What started as another routine hunt for wild boar in the dense Minnesota wilderness became the night that changed everything, the night I witnessed something that still haunts my dreams 3 years later. I'd been tracking wild boar through the Blackwood Forest for over a decade. My custom-built observation platform, perched 15 feet above the forest floor behind my cabin, had been my sanctuary for countless nights. Armed with military-grade thermal imaging equipment and years of experience, I considered myself among the most dedicated hunters in Clearwater County. On that bone-chilling October evening in 2022, something moved through my crosshairs that would shatter my world forever. I steadied my scope, expecting to see the familiar outline of a boar foraging through the underbrush. Instead, my blood turned to ice. A figure emerged from the darkness, human, not animal. Dressed entirely in black tactical clothing with a hood concealing his features, the stranger dragged what appeared to be an oversized canvas bag behind him. The weight of it, the way it moved, my stomach lurched as I realized what I might be witnessing. Every instinct screamed that I was watching someone dispose of a body. My hands trembled as I maintained visual contact, afraid to move, afraid to breathe. The figure worked methodically, digging with practiced precision. Then, without warning, he stopped mid-motion and slowly turned his head upward, directly toward my platform. Panic flooded my system. Had he spotted the faint glint of my scope? I dropped below the platform's edge, my heart hammering against my ribs like a caged animal. The forest fell into an unnatural silence, no crickets, no rustling leaves, nothing but the sound of my own ragged breathing. Then I heard it. The creak of the first ladder rung. My platform shuddered slightly. Another step. Then another. The wooden structure groaned under the weight of an unwelcome visitor climbing toward me in the darkness. But then, nothing. Complete, suffocating silence. A heavy thud from below told me he'd dropped back to the ground. I remained motionless, muscles cramped, lungs burning as I held my breath. Minutes stretched like hours until I finally found the courage to peer over the edge. The clearing was empty. This was my chance. I had to get back to the cabin, had to call for help. I fumbled for my high-powered flashlight, the worst mistake of my life, and its beam sliced through the darkness as I ran. That's when I heard them. Footsteps. Fast, erratic, gaining on me with terrifying speed. I spun around, and there he was, close enough that I could see the fury in his eyes beneath the hood. Training took over. I raised my rifle and fired. The shot caught him in the left shoulder, spinning him to the ground with a scream that echoed through the trees. I didn't stop to check his condition. I ran harder than I'd ever run in my 47 years. The call to the Clearwater County Sheriff's Department brought an immediate response. Within 30 minutes, K-9 units and armed deputies flooded the Blackwood Forest. I led them back to the scene, my hands still shaking as I pointed out the location. We followed a clear blood trail through the undergrowth until the dogs picked up a stronger scent near a fallen oak tree. There, concealed beneath a hollow log, we found him wounded, desperate, and still clutching a bloody shovel. The investigation that followed revealed the horrific truth. The man, later identified as Marcus Donovan Kellerman, had murdered Elena Vasquez Martinez, a beloved local business owner who disappeared from her family's Mexican restaurant 2 weeks earlier. The bag I'd witnessed contained her remains. 3 years have passed since that night in October 2022. I still live in the same cabin, but I've never returned to my hunting platform. Some nights, when the wind moves through the Blackwood Forest, I swear I can still hear those footsteps climbing toward me in the darkness. But I'll never stop sharing this story. Because sometimes, Being in the wrong place at the wrong time means being exactly where you need to be.